We're going over the top 15 must-have Commander cards from Karlov Manor.
I'm Mia, and I like keeping warm during the winter.
I'm Beezy. I like trying to get Miso onto this table so he can actually be in the videos. We're the Nitpicking Nerds, sponsored by Card Kingdom. If you are sick of all these other websites trying to send you 38 packages over 38 business days, you won't even get the Karlov Manor cards you order until next February, the next year. You won't even get those. Card Kingdom is different because they're sending it all in one package. You get free shipping, orders over $50, and it just makes sense to me.
We love Card Kingdom, and right now you can pre-order things like cards from Karlov Manor, the pre-cons, and literally a little bit of everything. And it'll all come in one convenient package as soon as it's released.
Dragon Shield, best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
And we're not just recommending that because they're our sponsor, we're recommending it because if you use code
NERDS
at checkout, you are not just buying sleeves and supporting the channel, which are both great things. You are saving money. 5% off your order. Ridiculous.
That is a lot of real money tax dollars. And we're sponsored by Moxfield. There's going to be an ad somewhere. You can't guess where it is. You lied. We know you already did.
You just lied. This is a conspiracy set. You know, it's all about subtlety. You just lied to us, and we're sick of it. So this set is actually pretty sick for Commander. We're super excited about it, and we do have some honorable mentions before we get into our top 15 because there's just so much cool stuff. So these aren't quite good enough to make the cut, but we want to talk about them. Mia, what's your honorable mention?
My honorable mention is Reenact the Crime. 1 blue for an instant. You exile target non-land card in a graveyard that was put there from anywhere this turn. You copy it, and you can cast the copy without paying its mana cost. I really like this. There's a card that does this maybe slightly better down the line, but I really like this considering you can use it after a board wipe if someone resolves like a time warp or something. I think that this is just very good. It kind of scales to the power level that everyone's playing at. So if you do have some more spicy spells or something, or someone has some really big threat that was just wiped from a board wipe, you can just take it for yourself. Or if you just need it for, just an extra effect that you have that just resolved this turn, you can also do that. And I think that's like a very interesting effect.
Yeah, my honorable mention is Knowledge is Power. It's 3 blue white for an enchantment. Creatures you control get +X, where X is the number of cards you've drawn this turn. I just love that blue white finally has like a solid overrun variant. So if you want to go wide with tokens or you want to make clues and sack them all, it actually gives you a way to win the game through combat. You don't have to do some kind of weird combo thing.
I really like Knowledge is Power because it gives you value and just the overrun effect for what Azorius does really well, drawing cards. But if you like value, you should go check out our Patreon. And special shout out to our patron, Peter Mullins. Thank you so much for subscribing.
Yeah, you have not seen our Patreon recently, I bet. It's been completely overhauled. We got brand new tiers, exclusive content that you cannot see literally anywhere else. We're going to show you a little preview, but you cannot see this spell table games and the new podcast we're doing only for patrons. Get down in the description, click the link for our Patreon if you're interested in extra bonus Nitpicking Nerds content, more than we already make.
Including 30 minutes per month with a one-on-one chat with us.
Could be you. That could be you. We can go to our number 15 card. Karlov Manor's got some bangers. We're getting into them for Commander. Connecting the Dots. 1 red for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, exile the top card of your library face down. That means you cannot look at it. And you can pay 1 red, discard your hand, and sacrifice this to put all cards exiled with it into their owner's hands. If you remember Bomat Courier, this is like the Commander playable version of it. Red has no card draw. Red sucks at card draw. Red sucks so bad at card draw that people are excited to play Thrill of Possibility. That's how bad Red's card draw is. They're taking a little bit of a stance and they're upgrading it. They're giving us some stuff for this set. So this is like a mono red or Boros only type card, but it can draw you a lot of cards.
I really like the fact that they are beefing up red. It just really needed that power boost. It was lagging behind for a really long time, but this is really nice considering 4 mana in total at least, and then you might be able to draw 3, 4, 5 cards depending on what type of deck you're building. Boros or mono red like aggro if you're bringing like goblins to the table or something with just a lot of little dudes. This can draw you a lot of cards really fast.
Yeah, if you play it early, that's great because it's going to see all the attacks you make for free, and then all the way up to the mid game, and you can cash in your 3 cards when you've used most of your hand to draw who knows, 8, 11, some kind of big number. And then if you top deck it late in the game and you really need an answer for something, you can send your whole team in, get access to 8 or 9 cards, cash your hand in, whatever's left of it, if you even have anything, you are red, and then draw a bunch of new cards. Maybe you find a board wipe you needed. Maybe you find a threat. Maybe you can burn somebody out. But this just lets red actually draw cards. We're not talking about discard a card, spend a card, draw 2, break even. We're talking about if you play this and attack a couple times, you can discard 0, 1, or 2 cards from your hand to draw 7, 8, or 9 cards.
You will be up cards at the end of this, and that's what what we love to see in red. Number 14 is Demand Answers. 1 in a red, red again for an instant. As an additional cost to cast it, sack an artifact or discard a card. Draw 2 cards. And I really like this because you can be up with cards in red. You could just pay, 3 mana if you have, a treasure and 1 in a red, or even if you have a clue, just 1 in a red and sack the clue that you might not have used anyways to draw 2. That's a really good rate.
Finally, we can trade our board presence for cards. So if you have an artifact token you can make pretty handily, maybe your commander makes some tokens that you don't need that are artifacts, this actually becomes 1 in a red, draw 2, assuming the cost is negligible. Not every deck can play this, but I really don't like Thrill of Possibility. So if you're playing Thrill of Possibility, please just cut it for this card. It is strictly better. But I'm excited by the prospect of red casting a spell and just being up cards in hand. It's like mind-blowing. I can't believe we got there. We finally did. It only took 26 years or however long it's been, 31 years, and we did it.
I'm really surprised that this came out in the mystery set, too. I wasn't expecting this, or for red to be this powerhouse, or at least it's becoming more of a powerhouse than it was many sets ago. So I'm really excited to see this.
Let's keep moving up the list. This is number 13. It's not a red card. It's Insidious Roots. Green and black for an enchantment. Creature tokens you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, and whenever 1 or more creature cards leave your graveyard, you get a 0/1 plant, and then you put a +1 counter on all your plants. The last mode, I don't think anybody's too hyped about, but the first mode, on an uncommon, to make all your tokens tap for mana of any color, it's pretty hype. The turn you play this, you usually get your mana back. Assuming your commander can make tokens, or you're just like a green-black X token deck. This is a very specific card, because you need to have tokens, and you need to want to make a bunch of them and make mana for bigger things, and that's great. I just have it lower on the list because green-black token decks, that's already pretty niche. Just like red artifact decks with Demand Answers.
It's a little bit more specific, but I do like it. I put it in the Jaheira category or the Elven Chorus category. I think that's really cool. But the question is, are you going to be putting this in your Ishkana deck?
I'm tempted. A lot of spiders are tokens. This could go off with a spider spawning or something. There's a lot to do with this, and I'm really excited that they're printing some banger uncommons and commons in this set. We just had Demand Answers, now we have this, and there's more even higher on the list. They went pretty ham with this set. I'm super glad they did because I got a lot of new toys to try out. This is one of them. Insidious Roots, very hyped card. I don't think it's busted, but I do think it's a solid role player.
Number 12 is Trouble in Pairs. 2 white for an enchantment. If an opponent would begin an extra turn, they skip it instead. Whenever an opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures, draws their second card each turn, or casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I don't think we're as hyped about this as other people are, but I am excited to see how this plays out, considering there are a lot of little parts of this where you can get multiple cards per turn if your opponents are doing all of these things.
This is a little bit of a question mark for me. We weren't really sure where to put this because this could end up like a lot of other mono white, super hyped, this fixes white, we did it, cards and precons that just completely flop. Archaeomancer's Map, Monologue Tax,
Smuggler's Share,
even Deep Gnome Terramancer. It's the list goes on and on. So I am not starting this in the top 10. We will see how this does. What is the minimum number of cards this has to draw before you feel good?
3?
Because at 2...
Maybe 2 I feel fine, but I don't feel great.
If I can draw 2 cards in a turn and a half and this stays in play, I guess I'd be pretty happy with it. If I could draw 3 and it dies, I guess you're getting somewhere. White can't really do that. So hopefully enough of this stuff is tacked onto this that it becomes a white staple, because this is not going to be as busted as Smothering Tithe. So I would be excited to see if this card was totally reasonable and saw play. I think it's reasonable, but I'm not going to say it's busted. I'm not going to continue that false hype train.
I think it has a lot of potential, considering it doesn't say this only triggers once per turn. If all these 3 things happen, you could get 3 cards a turn. I think your opponents will play around it, but people like BZ, for instance, have baubles and a lot of little cantrips, so you could be getting that second spell a turn also, but then if they're playing combat decks, you can also just get more. I think that there's a lot of potential, but I don't want to say it's busted either.
Our number 11 pick is another red card. This is Show-Stopping Surprise. 3 red for an instant. Choose target creature you control. Turn it face up. If it's face down, then it deals damage equal to its power to each other creature. Oh, that's the real reason it's good. Forget the turn it face up thing. That's just a red herring for the precon. Someone's going to play this in a morph deck. That's fine. But what it is instant speed, Chandra's Ignition. You get The instant speed versus sorcery speed, so it's much easier to cast. You can hold it up and respond to things. It'll be harder to get 2-for-1 because they won't see it coming as much. You can respond to things, but you lose the trade-off of it doesn't hit opponents' faces.
Yeah, I think that is a bit of a trade-off, but I don't mind it. I think that this is going to be pretty exciting in, like, if the price goes down enough, if it's in Bailoff, because, for instance, that is just a one-sided board wipe for the most part, especially in those Voltron-type decks.
But yeah, in that deck, actually, you can get advantage out of casting it at instant speed, because if you attack with a bunch of stuff that's goaded, your opponents are attacking you, then you can destroy them all and get all the treasures from Bailoff. It's like a really specific... but really good combo.
It's a lot of value. I love the flings in those decks, so I think I'm really going to like this too, provided the price goes down.
It doesn't have to be this or Chandra's Ignition. You could also just play both and be pretty happy about it, because we don't have too many cards that are like this. This might be one of the only other ones.
I think a deck will want both copies. I think that, like, as the one-sided board wipe and just the full sweeper effect is something that's just very nice in a lot of decks where one creature is just much bigger than the rest of the creatures in that deck.
Yeah, number 10, yet another red card. This one could be busted or it could just be okay. What do we got?
It is Anzrag's Rampage at 3 red sorcery. Destroy all artifacts you don't control, then exile the top X of your library, where X is the number of artifacts that were put into graveyards from the battlefield this turn. You can put a creature card exiled this way onto the battlefield, and it gets haste, and it goes back to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. I think that is a lot of words for a lot of value, too. Is this better Vandal Blast?
It could
Maybe.
be. You do lose the mode to cast it cheap and take out a Soul Ring or something on turns 1 through 3, but when you overload it and you just destroy everything else, it doesn't, like, this card kind of seems like, if you kind of glaze over it, it would seem like, oh, if I destroy 3 artifacts, I can get a 3-drop into play. No, if you destroy 3 artifacts and you flip Ulamog, you can just attack with it. It goes right into play and then it goes back to your hand for the cast trigger. This thing can do some serious damage. Plus, if I get to cast Vandal Blast and I end up with a creature in my hand, that's red card draw, baby.
That is really good. I would love to see this in a deck that can also stack the top, like with top. That would be super nice.
Yeah, so you know what's coming and you can know when to cast this thing.
That's
or, like,
interesting.
Yeah, you put a card from your hand on top somehow. This is definitely a card that is not just a mono red card, just like Show-Stopping Surprise. This could go in a bunch of different decks. It seems like a reasonable alternative or inclusion alongside Vandal Blast.
I want to see this in like Gruul Stompy when you just have a lot of threats in the deck to begin with, and you're going to be able to flip one for free and then also just take out everyone's artifacts because you might not be able to do that as easily.
Yeah, or like, what if you just fire this off on turn 4? You hit 3 things and then you just spike a 7-drop with some kind of ETB. It's like, the game could just be over. You're going to just take over that whole game.
That is going to be really good. I'm really excited to see this, and I would love to see it in Svella if it goes down enough. Number 9 is Aftermath Analyst. 1 green for a 1/3. When it ETBs, you mill 3. And if you pay 3 green and sack it, you return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. That can make a lot of Field of the Dead zombies.
It really could. I'm so glad you mentioned it. But this card is sick. This is everything World Shaper was like promising to be, which it never delivered on ever. This is an uncommon also. Like, what is going on with this set? I love it. It fuels itself right away, mills you 3. You can sacrifice it on curve if you're doing some fetch land stuff to get like 3 lands in play for cheap, or you can wait till the end of the game, play it, mill 3, then just sack it right away for an extra 4 to get like 17 lands if that's what your deck's doing. This can go in landfall decks, or it could go in like just graveyard decks as a value card, because if I'm playing Carador and I got a 2-mana dork that mills me 3, sick, that's great. Oh, it does more things? Awesome.
The uncommons are slapping in this set. That's really awesome to hear. I'm so excited that they're actually putting value in those like lower tier cards, I guess.
Lower tier is hyped for Karlov Manor. Aftermath Analyst, can you think of anything else it would do? I know obviously lands and graveyard decks. Anyone else want this? Maybe just like a deck that wants to fill its graveyard, even if you're playing some other kind of strategy?
I've definitely seen a couple cards in this set that say like when things leave your graveyard. I think that can play into it really nicely.
That could be fire too. But we're jumping up in rarity for our number 8 pick. This is a rare. It's Aurelia, the Law Above. 3 white red for a 4/4 flying. Vigilance, haste. Whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. And whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, she deals 3 to each opponent and you gain 3. This is a lot of things going on. It has haste, which helps fuel itself, so it really only says attack with 2 other creatures right away to draw a card right away. And if you attack with a bunch, you throw an Alpha Strike down, you get to deal 9 damage and gain 3 life.
I'd like to point out that we usually don't put legendaries on this list because we're not grading them as commanders. This is just going to be really great in the 99, considering it does fuel those Boros combat decks, and that you can get actual card draw. I'm so psyched for that.
Yeah, if somebody cracks back at you too, you get to draw a card still. It works on any combat. If you're goading, if you got Taunt from the Rampart or Baloth or whoever else is going on, Spectacular, the one that gives double strike, sure, whatever you want to do, this is going to make it so that now whoever they're attacking, doesn't have to be you, you're still drawing a bunch of cards, and this is still a decent, chunky flyer with vigilance and haste. Like, I love everything about Aurelia. I have no notes. I would add nothing to this card. It's so sweet.
This is a great card. I would love to see it as a commander, but I'd also just love to see it in a bunch of more 99s.
Yeah, this is a 99 card. Like, if I had to pick one, I don't care that it's legendary. It's going to be a great commander, but so many decks are like, thank God, please get in my deck.
Another awesome thing about Aurelia is the fact that you can have her as Moxfield.com. You can put her in the 99 right now, even though she's not out, considering Moxfield has updated databases.
Moxfield, it does it all. Only the best decks are allowed on Moxfield, and only the best decks are allowed to be edited on Moxfield. So go find out if you have the best deck by using Moxfield, following the Nitpicking Nerds, and then building a deck. And as long as it lets you do it, you've got the best deck ever.
Moxfield has a lot of features, so go check them out, go follow us, and build some awesome decks.
Before we get to number 7, Surveil Lands. I'm not really sure what to call these. I'm sure that's what it's going to end up being. It's a cycle of 10 enters the battlefield tap lands. Let's use the white-blue one as an example. It's a Plains Island, enters tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, you surveil 1. I'm super hyped about these lands. They are not broken by any stretch. They might not even make it into some commander decks, but what I'm excited about is the fact that enemy-colored pairs now have a typed dual land that they can fetch for that isn't just a vanilla typed land like from Dominaria United, like what is it, like Radiant Grove, like some kind of nonsense like that. We can actually fetch in our Orzhov deck for a land that is a dual land and does something. The thing that I've been upset about was that when Battle for Zendikar came out and when Amonkhet came out, we got awesome new typed duels for the allied colors, and they never followed up on it for the enemies. So the enemies have a little bit of a boost now.
The enemy colors were not getting that much love. I really do like the fact that these are better than the Scrylands, which a lot of people are playing, and way, way better than the ones that are like, you gain 1 life. It's like, okay, sure, that's fine, I guess. But if those are what you're playing, you can actively upgrade with these, and it's going to be so much better.
Yeah, and it puts a card in your graveyard. It's so much different than scrying to the bottom. Putting a card in your graveyard is like advantage. You can delve with it. You can count creature cards in the graveyard for it. It's really, really sick. I mean, obviously you have much more access to cards in your graveyard than on the bottom of your library. So if you're playing any Scrylands, either take them out for these or get these in because they're obviously better. I love these lands so much. There's so many different things you can do with them, and I'm excited.
I mentioned earlier that there was a card on this list that was better than my honorable mention, and this is it at number 6, Flotsam Jetsam. It's a 1 green blue for an instant on the Flotsam side that says mill 3, then investigate. That's pretty mid, but the Jetsam side is 4 blue black sorcery. Each opponent mills 3, then you can cast a spell from each opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost, and you exile it instead of putting it back into the graveyard. That's a 3-for-1, and for 6 mana, that's super cool.
What is this throwaway uncommon doing just having an amazing rate in Commander? It even fuels itself. So you could, theoretically, if you want to cast this on turn 5, just fire it off, and you're probably going to get three spells from it. This is going to make its mana advantage back in no time. The only downside of this card is that stupid Flotsam side. I'm never going to use Flotsam to pay 4 mana total to mill 3 and then draw a card. 5% of the time you might do it, but I don't want that green pip in it because now you can only play this card in Sultai decks. So blue-black players, I'm sorry. It's a little unfortunate, but Flotsam Jetsam's still pretty awesome. We all know that Jetsam is apparently superior.
This is like a mini Breach the Multiverse, which is one of our favorite cards from the last year. So the Jetsam side is really exciting.
It is. It's a little baby Breach the Multiverse, but it's some serious mana and card advantage. I'm excited for Flotsam Jetsam, but I probably won't be able to play it anywhere. I just hope someone else has a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it's like you don't play Sultai Poop.
I do not play Sultai Poop, which is one of our favorite archetypes in any limited environment. There's always a Sultai Poop deck out there. Moving into our top 5, and the commons are back again. This is an uncommon. It's Crime Novelist. 2 and a red for 1/3. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, put a counter on it, but more importantly, you also add a red. Whoa, this is like a pretty pushed card. We had to keep it down to number 5 because it's kind of specific. It's red, artifacts, and you're sacrificing them. But I still think that's enough decks, and this is good enough in those decks where I'm going to be scared of this, whether it's for combo nonsense or just clue value.
I want to see this in like Mahadi decks. You're making treasures, you're sacking it, you're getting double mana.
I wasn't even thinking about it with treasures.
I think the treasures are where it shines, and I think that's why it's so hyped.
I didn't even consider that. That is... Okay, yeah. Glad we put this card at number 5. Crime Novelist is going to be all over the place. He's going to be messing you up. You kind of just have to kill this card. And it's an uncommon.
The uncommons are bangers in this set. I'm really excited to see the kind of nonsense that this pulls off. It's going to slap in like the Corvold decks and the Mahadis and all of that. And
even if you just sacrifice like a Hangerback Walker, that's still an artifact, even though it's a creature artifact, and you still get a red.
I will not be happy when I have to swords this card, but it needs to be done, and it's the correct move because it's a lot of value. Number 4 is Forensic Gadgeteer. 2 blue for a 3/3. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you investigate. Activated abilities of artifacts cost 1 less, and that's just really good value. It'll be really great in your clue decks. It'll be really great in those decks where you have to pay and tap to actually not just tokens. This has a lot of value.
Yeah, this is interesting because it kind of looks like a clue card, but it's really just not a clue card at all. It's an artifact card. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, investigate. You get an artifact. It's just like Psy, except it now gives you value, and the clues crack for 1. So you could read it as whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get an artifact ETB trigger, then you can pay 1 to draw a card right away. And this is better, obviously, because they stick around. But this is like a serious value card in any heavy artifact deck. You do have to weigh your artifacts versus your non-artifacts because this is just a regular creature. It's not an artifact, but it's going to make some serious value for you.
I want to try this in my Alayla deck, but I also just want to see this alongside Midnight Clock. I think that's value right there.
Now we're getting somewhere. We can pay 2 to put an hour counter on it. Okay, yeah, I want to see what weird artifacts. Let us know in the comments if you've got like an artifact you're dying to try, or if there's an artifact commander that has some kind of activated ability that you want to just spam with Forensic Gadgeteer. The only thing about it is that you can't reduce the value of an ability from 1 to 0, but if you clone this, you can get an ability like Midnight Clock down from 3 to 1.
And then you will just be getting 2 clues per artifact cast.
Yeah, when you clone it, that's nuts.
I mean, that's great too.
I love this card. This card's really sweet, but we're going to move on to a common at number 3. It's Pick Your Poison. Green for a sorcery. Choose 1. Each opponent sacrifices an artifact, each opponent sacrifices an enchantment, or each opponent sacrifices a creature with flying. This is 1 mana for a lot of potential and a lot of flexibility and a lot of modes. There's so many things you could do with this card.
I love the fact that Wizards is printing multimodal spells for cheap mana costs that hit each opponent at like the uncommon or common slot, and this is a common, so that's awesome. I think that people should be playing things like Shieldred's Edict more, and this is another card where I think I want to put this in a lot more decks, maybe replacing like the Nature's Claims and stuff, considering it is a 3-for-1. It's not targeted, but if someone only has 1 artifact, you just happen to get 2 other ones for free.
Yeah, I really want to get cards like this into my decks. We have been playing so much 3-for-1 removal, things that hit each opponent or each player or whatever. It's so valuable. It takes people out of the game accidentally. You can shut down someone they tapped out for their 5 mana enchantment. Great. I'm going to take out the other 2 things that I was hoping for. You guys sacrifice an enchantment. And by the way, you lose that thing that I wasn't going to remove, but now my spell just takes it out as like a free roll. And this does that with flyers, does that with artifacts. You get so much versatility and like so many choices to make. It's good early, and it does fall off a little bit late, but I think where it might shine a little bit in the late game is just taking out flyers.
I think so too, but imagine this. Everyone pulls a Soul Ring but you, and then you play this turn 1 and no one has a Soul Ring.
Land.
They all kept 1-landers. I feel like a lot of people keep 1-landers with Soul Ring. Don't do that. But this is going to be sweet. I love the fact that it's just 1 mana. It's a turn 1 play.
It is a turn 1 play. It's probably great for CEDH, but I think realistically it's probably like a turn 2 or 3 play where you just start sniping everything. I want to get my full value, but if I can spend 1 mana and make my opponent sacrifice 3 things, that is like so obviously good, and I'm so psyched.
I mean, fair, but you have paid 1 mana for Nature's Claim on 1 person's Soul Ring.
Absolutely, yeah. It could be a high value thing if it's in play and the window's there, because you don't want them to play another copy. So get your value. Maybe you only get 2 things out of it. Maybe you only get a 2-for-1 for 1 mana.
Yeah, maybe you just hit their 1-drop artifact creature and then there's the other person's Soul Ring. That's still value.
All right, hold on. I know it seems like we might be done talking about this, but actually, Pick Your Poison is going to totally end people's careers. If somebody starts with like a turn 1 Soul Ring, I'm going to play this. I'm going to sacrifice an artifact. But then you got like player C over here who played like Darksteel Citadel, and it's gone now, and they just lose a land. It's like, sorry, buddy.
I have accidentally done that with people before when they play like the Darksteel Citadels, and I've like farewell, and it's like, ooh, that took out your land.
That's turn 6 or 7.
I know. I'm just letting you know that like, ooh, that's really my bad. But yeah, you're just gonna wasteland people by accident if they're playing artifact lands.
All right, it's time for our number 2 card from Karlov Manor, and I'm going to throw it over to Mia because this is probably her favorite card in the set.
It really is. Unexplained Absence, 3 and a white for an instant. For each player, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent they control. For each permanent exiled this way, its controller cloaks the top card of their library, which means it goes as a 2/2 onto the field, and they can pay the mana cost to flip it back up if it's a creature. I really love this because this is the 3 for ones that we're talking about. Instant speed also, non-land permanent, so you have a range of things to hit, and it can hit your own stuff too. So if you have like a clue you're not using or something, and you just want to make the top a 2/2, you can do that. This is the law value for 4 mana. This is like the Druid of Purifications, but this is instant speed, which is so much better, and it hits way more.
White does not have a ton of these, actually. Taking out the best thing from each opponent. I'm not counting Grasp of Fate. It's an O-ring. It's not permanent. This just gets rid of it, which is obviously what I want to do. I don't want them to ever get it back. Take your stupid 2/2. I'm basically reality shifting 3 things at once. That's a great deal because you're not even paying 6 for it. That's a 6 mana value thing, but you're getting 4 mana for all that stuff. It's right at that mana value, I think, is the sweet spot. Because I've played Windgrace's Judgment a lot. That feels like it's a little pricey. 5 mana for that is a little bit. This is exile. It's 4 mana. And in a pinch, like you said, I can exile one of my own crappy things that I don't need. If I need a blocker, I can throw a 2/2 down by exiling a clue. You don't have to do that. It's totally optional. This thing kind of just does it all, and I'm expecting to play a lot of this in most of my white decks.
I really like this. The fact that they gave good removal to white, and they gave actual card draw to red, and then just Boros in general. They gave a couple cards that just really slap in this set. Good job, Karlov Manor. Yeah, good job, Karlov Manor.
All right, it's time for the number 1.
Beezy's favorite.
I think this is number 1 by a million miles. I don't know what this card is doing, but it's cracked in half. Archdruid's Charm, green, green, green for an instant. You choose 1. Search your library for a creature or land card and reveal it. Put it onto the battlefield tapped if it's a land card. Otherwise, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So we've got 3 mana instant speed creature tutor or 3 mana instant speed crop rotation without sacrificing. Oh, but there's more modes. You can also put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and it deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control, so like a removal for creatures. Or the last mode, you can exile target artifact or enchantment. So really what we have is search for a creature, put it in your hand, search for a land, put it into play, kill a creature, exile an artifact, or exile an enchantment. That's 5 modes that you get to choose from, all of which are great for 3 mana and instant speed. I don't know what this card is doing.
It does a little bit of everything. I don't think you're going to be able to play it in like your 4, 5, and sometimes 3 color decks, depending on what lands you're running. But this card is really great. I do love the fact that it's an instant speed too. I could maybe see this being stapled onto a sorcery speed card, but instant, that's value.
This card, I can't even name another thing. I was like, oh, I wish it did this. It just does everything. I don't know how to not play this card in pretty much every 3, 2, and 1 color green deck I have because it's just off the chain. The only thing that you could run into trouble with is the pips, but this card is not a card that needs to be cast on turn 3, first of all. And second of all, I really have not had that much trouble in the decks where I'm building out the mana base and I'm not on a budget. Even on a budget, I have not really had problems casting triple pip cards on like turn 5. It's just, especially green, where, even 4-color green decks tend to be heaviest in green, so you can splash and get all your ramp going. So I think this card is just amazing. I think it's probably the best card in the set by a mile. If I had to pick, I would say 100% it's this one right now. I'm so happy to I just buy 5 copies and play with them.
I really love the fact that it is exile target artifact or enchantment too, because if you're playing Rex Sage, that's only destroy, but you could be playing Rex Sage without the body, but everything else that comes with it, that's better value.
Yeah, primarily you're going to use this to tutor. It's a great tutor for creatures or lands. It's ramp also. That's the primary mode, is the first 2. But in a pinch, you can kill a creature, which green has trouble doing sometimes. And at the exile, instead of destroy, didn't have to say that, but we'll take it. Get rid of the 1 ring, too. That's actually a real answer to the 1 ring. This is going to be played as much as that card in green decks, at least.
I think that having answers to the One Ring is so rare. So
I mean, even Pick Your Poison can kill the One Ring.
yeah, so can Unexplained Absence.
We've got it. We've got the One Ring on lock now. It's over.
They learn, they're like, we messed up. We need answers now.
Yeah. And if you need answers as to which precons are worth buying from Karlov Manor, you can watch the video right here. I think it'd be super helpful.